Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I just realized that I did something yesterday. I had done this video you're looking at right here. It's called XRP at the Master's Story, X Rippler Post and Federal Reserve 2.0. And I had kept it as unlisted by accident. I thought I had taken this video public yesterday, so that means today you get 2 videos because this is Saturday. Okay. So I want to remind everybody in the private group, you can join by going to daixrp.com if you want to join through the Patreon, or you can go and click this join button below all of my YouTube videos if you'd prefer to join through YouTube. Yesterday in my group, I covered my new partner that, in my opinion, solves a lot of the problems I've had with my crypto for years. Since I got in this, I can't tell you how many sleepless nights I've had over my private keys and all that stuff, okay, and trying to my crypto, whether it was going to be safe, whether I was doing the right thing. The other problem that I have had is the other elephant in the room, which is when anything goes wrong. How many times have you been in a crypto market that's where the prices are surging and all of a sudden the exchange is shut down and you don't have anybody to talk to, or somebody tries to hack one of your accounts and all that kind of stuff, and you don't have anybody you can talk to? Well, I found the place where it's different. It's Caleb and Brown. This is my new partner. I did it with Digital Perspectives. This is the quote we put up there. This is what I've been waiting on since I got into crypto. No more worrying about if I've been hacked, if my transfers went through, or I set my market orders correctly. With Caleb and Brown, I finally have institutional grade custody, which we haven't had since I got in this, not for retail. For XRP, and a real person I can speak with anytime I need support. They've completely eliminated the fear of losing my assets or struggling with self-custody. Caleb and Brown is redefining what service should look like for everyday investors. This is a total game changer. Now, before I decided I was going to work with Caleb and Brown, for 2 or 3 years, I was hearing about this company. And they tried to talk to me a lot and different things, but I didn't do anything about it because in my position, you have to kind of sit back and watch. In crypto, you have to sit back and kind of watch a lot of these companies because a million things can go wrong and all of that. And so longevity is a big deal before I talk to a company like this. And so I watched these guys for 2 or 3 years, and I was hearing a lot of my friends that are in crypto kept telling me, Caleb and Brown, you got to do this. I get institutional grade custody, and I have an actual broker I can talk to. So finally, and then they came to XRP Las Vegas 2 or 3. This will be the 3rd year they're coming. Last year I had a conversation with one of their people backstage, and these guys are smart. They have a story that goes all the way back. They started in 2016. They're out of Australia, but I want to show you. I looked into a lot of things with these guys, but one of the things is their Trustpilot. You can go to Trustpilot, go to Google and type in Caleb and Brown Trustpilot. These guys, they have more 5-star ratings. They have a lot of ratings, and just about all of them are 5-star. And so then I went to find out about their custody, and I talked to them about this. They use Fireblocks, which is institutional grade custody. And so I even took the extra step of getting them to send me something from, showing they were in good standing with Fireblocks, which I did. And then I also got them to send me their regulators, the Australian Securities Investments Commission, which is their version of the SEC. And then they also operate in the United States, and they're regulated state by state by U.S. regulators. So these guys are real deal. But here's the cool part. And I transferred a bunch of my XRP over there. And the cool part is I don't have to worry about sleeping well. I go to sleep and just fine now. and I don't worry about my XRP with those guys. I can call them. I also have the broker's email address. They'll even route trades. If you send a trade, say I want to sell my XRP at this price, and I want to put some kind of limit order on this. They do all of that stuff, and you can. It doesn't matter. Even if they're asleep, your email would be routed through to someone that's not. And these guys are sharp. So what I did is I've got, and I'm going to put the link. They gave us a special link, and the link to, if you want to go open a Caleb and Brown account, the link is at the very top of the description of this YouTube video. Just look below the video, and it's at the very top. Just click on that, and you can go and open an account, and those guys are ready for you. Excited about that partnership. And by the way, look who is starting to do a little bit of a blast off. That would be XRP, up 8% on the 24 hours, $2.15. It just keeps on coming back. And then Brad Garlinghouse was on Fox Business yesterday afternoon. Let's watch some of this.
Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse. Ripple's XRP is the native token of the decentralized blockchain XRP ledger. Litigious.
For sure.
As recently as our conversation with Hester Peirce of the SEC, one of the commissioners, she said that the lawsuit against Ripple was still hovering. Where is it now? Because last night we started to hear that it may be disappearing.
So we have reached agreement with staff, and usually what happens is you reach agreement with staff makes recommendation to the commission, and then the commission votes. So anytime we make announcements about that, we are clear that we've reached agreement with staff. The commission hasn't yet voted, but what we've agreed is to dismiss and move on. We're actually getting, the SEC we had put in escrow a potential fine of $125 million. We're actually taking most of that back, including the interest that had been earned along the way. And I think it's just evidence that the Gensler SEC was on the wrong side of the law. And thanks to the new leadership at the SEC and in the White House, I think we're seeing a much more constructive, much more pro-innovation. We want these industries to grow at home.
When you say most of the $125 million you had parked in that little fund in case of the worst case scenario, what's left? Can you give us some?
The SEC is going to end up with a $50 million. The U.S. government's going to get $50 million. We've even talked about making that available in XRP.
Let me translate that. We've even talked about putting $50 million worth of XRP in the digital asset stockpile for the United States.
But look, at the end of the day, this is a major step forward. I think if you kind of zoom out and look at this, the Trump administration is absolutely living up to their promises. Guy David Sachs leading the effort at the White House, Scott Bessent, and certainly now Paul Atkins getting confirmed, I think, yesterday.
Yes.
These are people who are focused on how do we make sure this is an industry that can thrive at home with sensible regulation, common sense. And that's not what we had for the last 4 years.
What would you hope to see as common sense regulation? Have you talked to David Sachs, and what have you said? Hey, David, this at least needs to be front and center.
The two things that have the most momentum in Capitol Hill are around a stablecoin legislation and then something we generally call a market structure bill. Stablecoin legislation, because we haven't yet had clarity about at what point are banks involved, not involved, what kind of licensing is appropriate. Ripple recently launched our stablecoin under a New York trust license through the New York Department of Financial Services, which we think is kind of the gold standard for how to be regulated in this market. But having federal legislation that is providing clarity for the big players like USDC, Circle, as well as Tether is super important. I think we're going to see that sooner rather than later.
President Trump has made big strides that are very pro-crypto. It's got to be great for somebody like you. However, the price of, let's just say, Bitcoin, which reached a high after the election of something like $107,000, is nowhere near that now. I think we're around 86,000 and change, but it's been a market drop. When do you foresee this moving back up? Because we've seen all kinds of...
All right, I'm not going to play the rest of the interview. You can kind of go and watch it. Bank XRP's put the whole video up there, but good stuff. And then Brad Garlinghouse says, great to be back with Liz Clayman today to chat about Ripple's historic acquisition of prime broker Hidden Road and what this means for the broader crypto market as the U.S. takes a much-needed pro-innovation approach with new leadership. We're moving past the SEC's war on crypto and entering the next phase of the market, true institutional flows integrating with decentralized finance. I did want to go back to that interview and play you the part where Brad Garlinghouse predicts a $200,000 Bitcoin.
I think people are still figuring out how that'll play out. I think the long-term value here is going to be very clear. It is a hedge against inflation. It is a dynamic where the more utility we drive in the crypto markets, the more we're going to see value accrete to that market.
I don't know if you do this, but I'm going to ask you anyway and push you. What is your price target for Bitcoin? Because Cardano blockchain founder predicted, as I said earlier, 250,000 by year end.
You know, I will predict Bitcoin. I wouldn't predict XRP. It's too close to home. But I think 200,000 is not unreasonable. I think before I've kind of said, 175 around there. I think people underestimate how the largest economy in the world, the United States, went from headwinds, hostility, to tailwinds. And I think people are still not fully quantifying how significant that is to have the largest economy in the world, the largest asset managers in the world go from relatively frozen out or hostile to now a friendly market that has sensible regulation, that is thinking about pro-innovation here at home.
So the Ripple CEO predicts $200,000 Bitcoin, but won't touch XRP. He's got to be the CEO. Tokenization from the market. One thing he said in that interview too is that Larry Fink came on right before him, the BlackRock CEO. Wonder if they talked about an XRP ETF. Tokenization of the market from stocks to bonds to real estate is coming, says BlackRock CEO Larry Fink, if we can solve one problem. I don't know what the problem is. Not going to go too deep into that. It's time to turn on those stablecoin printers. Investors are growing concerned about U.S. asset exodus as treasuries and dollar decline. Always was the plan. This is Arthur Hayes, the guy that started BitMEX. Smart guy. Listen to what he says about these markets.
I mean, there definitely will be a bear market for sure, because our expectations of what the future amount of fiat growth will outpace what actually happens, right? Mm-hmm. But I think if we're talking about what's really going to reignite Bitcoin from this, 70,000 to 100,000 chop that we've been in for the last few months, I think it's the Fed capitulates, then the PBOC allows the yuan to weaken, or at least stay consistent with the Fed. They can print as much money and tread water. You have the EU printing money to build bombs, and then you have Japan. The BOJ might stop its normalization of rates exercise and go back to printing money so that Japan can regain some export competitiveness against China. So again, I think that is what can take us into the 250 and above levels for Bitcoin. Very cool.
Listen to that. And look at here. Boston Fed President Susan Collins excuse me, says the Fed is absolutely prepared to step in and stabilize markets if conditions turn disorderly. While she sees no liquidity crisis now, the Fed has tools ready if needed, echoing 2020 style interventions. I think I'll stop there. I'm going to go into the group. I got a lot more to cover. Go to daixrp.com if you want to join through the Patreon. It's less than the cost of a cup of coffee. Or you can go below this YouTube video and click the join button if you would prefer to join through YouTube. Same group, you get the extended videos with the extra content, but with no commercials. That's how we play the game. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family. Away we go.